Good morning, everybody. Meteorologist Robert Spetty here with WesternPacificWeather.com. It is currently the 7th of May, 2011, and approximately 10:00 in the morning here, Japan Standard Time. That's approximately 01 Zulu for those of you worldwide watching this. And the big topic of discussion today is tropical depression Bebeng down here, just east of Visayas, around the Philippines here. Also might be called Aere here in the next several hours if JMA upgrades this to a tropical storm. And tropical storm, basically tropical depression right now, 03 whiskey per JTWC. That's the name they have on it as well. Current winds out of it are 30 gusting to 40 knots as it tracks towards the west-northwest at 5 knots. So a fairly slow-moving system, and that is allowing it more time to develop here and become a possible tropical storm out in this region. So I'm not expecting it to get too strong. Definitely not expecting this system to get up to typhoon status, but currently looking at some of the images on this system. Looking at the infrared and visible imagery here, there's some fairly evident banding coming around this system with some higher cloud tops off towards the northeast in the polar section here. And that's basically being enhanced by an anticyclonic rotation in the upper levels up in this region here. But overall, the circulation is centered just east of Visayas here. Actually, if we scroll down here on this microwave imagery where you can peer through some of these higher cloud tops, you can see some of this banding here right in this region here. So just noting that there is no eye wall set up at this time, and not expecting really one to set up here just due to the weakness of this system, and also due to its getting distorted over land here in Visayas, and once it moves farther up towards the northwest here, starting to get distorted up over Luzon up in this region here, and that's really going to kind of destroy any potential for an eye wall developing. But there is a center of circulation right in here. Actually, looking at ASCA imagery, kind of proving this fact. The most recent pass here did get kind of half rotation here, and also showing these winds upwards of 30 knots right in this region along the northern periphery where those higher wind fields are. Next pass that comes by, hopefully might get confirmation that this storm is reached tropical storm status, and thus JMA would upgrade it to a named storm of Aere, and then we'll get our first named storm of the season out here in the Western Pacific. But where is this system going to go? Well, I think this is I like using streamline analysis vice models when it comes to short range here, because it really does give you a good idea where this stuff is going to go. Models sometimes can initialize wrong, but if you know how you're looking at when it comes to these streamlines, really gives you a good idea of where these systems are going to go in the near term. But here, looking at the 700 to 850 millibar streamline analysis, actually comes from Sims here. This overall system and the overall background flow looks like it's moving off towards the northwest around the subtropical ridge off in this region here. Actually, you can see all this negative vorticity right in here. Well, it's actually associated with the Westpac high out here, and that's really influencing the system. And also, you do have another anticyclonic rotation right here just over the South China Sea, and that's also going to influence here. So basically, the system's going to want to run in between both of these right out in here and kind of move off towards the west-northwest and off toward this region here. And that's kind of where this overall system is tracking right now, with the overall background flow off towards the northwest in this basically troughing area right in here. So over northern Luzon, and then eventually over Luzon Strait, and then up towards Taiwan. But here just showing the GFS model for tomorrow morning or Sunday at 00Z, really starting this very disorganized over southern Luzon, and that's expected as it runs into a lot of the rugged terrain up in that region. But eventually by the 10th, showing here per GFS, it will reemerge up in the Luzon Strait. Very disorganized, and basically it caught up in the westerlies and kind of shoot off towards the northeast as very disorganized. Also, I do want to continue to scroll down here and actually scrolling all the way out to the basically the 13th here into morning at 18Z on the 12th, or basically morning out in this time zone right in here. There is potential for a tropical cyclone or a tropical storm development moving up here just south of Guam per GFS, but this is still long range out here and very subject to change. But I do want to mention the fact that this model is particularly picking up on a system developing, and it was accurate on picking up a system developing east of the Philippines here as well, but it did eventually weaken and back on the intensity here. But there is a potential for some high winds and precipitation here by next weekend in the Guam region per this model here. But moving on and showing JTWC's warning on the system as noted, current winds 30 gusting to 40 knots. They're looking at a max of 50 gusting up to 65 knots here just prior to landfall here on the morning of the 9th here, just along the eastern Luzon right in this region. Possibly near Baller here, but definitely along the Sierra Madre mountain ranges right in here in that national park. Good news is it's fairly sparsely populated out in this region, and it looks like it's going to remain well east of Manila and Quezon, this entire metropolitan area out here. So that's kind of the good news here as well. But moving on to Pagasa's warning on the system. And good news is that their warning does match up with GTBC, so everybody's kind of on the same page. They're initializing it and moving it a little bit slower across Luzon, and in this case, flooding potential could be much higher here, especially in some of the low-lying areas out in here, and especially in some of these squatter villages along the Manila metropolitan area. There's that potential for some localized flooding in those areas, so kind of bad news when it comes to that. Anytime you get a tropical storm through some of those areas, it really spells the potential for some devastating floods in some of these regions here. And I think that's going to be the biggest outcome of this system is the potential for some flooding, especially as noted in the Manila metropolitan area up in this region here, from Quezon all the way up to Angeles and all the way down to Manila here. This entire region definitely has that potential for some flooding as this storm is going to track here over Jomalig Island here and up towards the Sierra Madre region. And that really is just going to continue to pump in some precipitation out in here, and definitely going to see the highest amount of rainfall up in this region. Any potential for storm surge, I definitely don't think that is really going to be a factor. There's a potential for some tornadic activity, especially in some landfalling areas here, and some of those outer rain bands that we showed on that microwave imagery earlier, but just showing you here again, some tornadic activity is possible in some of these higher cloud tops as you do get with some of these landfalling systems, but I don't think they're going to be very strong. There's some very weak tornadic activity, possibly EF0 to EF1 intensity out of these systems, but it could show some localized high winds as some of those higher cloud tops do move over your region. But as the most damaging aspect of the system is definitely going to be the flooding, some of these low-lying areas here along southern Luzon and even up towards northeastern Luzon. But on the western side of the, or excuse me, the eastern side of the Sierra Madre is where you're going to see the highest potential flooding here. And also noting in some of these low-lying areas in the metropolitan Manila area could see some flooding out of this, as well as you get that enhanced afternoon heating by tomorrow afternoon as this continues to move off towards the northwest, and also the overall rain bands coming in off this system, especially as it's near Jomalig Island here. But that is all for today, everybody. Thanks once again for listening to WesternPacificWeather.com. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, as usual, you can post them here on the YouTube channel or at WesternPacificWeather.com as well. And also, I'm posting this at storm2k.org. Plenty of weather and meteorological discussion on the system as well, and basically in the scientific detail of what's going on with it. But thanks again for listening, everybody. I hope you have a great day, and I'll have another update later on. Bye.